Hello and welcome back to Ideas to Inspire Ideas, the show where I get creative projects out of my head and into yours. Or at least that's the official tagline. Watch me never again say it on camera in favour of rephrasing the same concept 1,000 times. And let me start this episode with a question. Can you tell that it's night time? Because I normally film these during the day, but the 3 curtains do keep it pretty dark in here. Or is it ironically brighter? I can't really tell. But it doesn't matter that I'm filming this at night because this episode is all about horror. Racing horror. Every now and again I do have a fun little thought experiment I do where I take 2 concepts that have never been put together before and put them together. See how they might merge. Today's episode is combining the racing genre, which isn't a very big popular genre nowadays, with horror, which has gotten a resurgence lately. The start of this idea was literally me driving a friend home in the middle of a fog. My friend Trent Petronitis, we're working on a video game together. On our way home, I literally turned to him and said, "Now if I make video games, this is what I would make." Ironically, I'm not making it, so what do I know? This game began as Bleak Haven and then became Black Haven because the town that it's based in is called Blake Haven. So, different spelling, different names, doesn't really matter. On a long road trip in the middle of the night, you see a sign emerge through the fog. Blake Haven. You consider pulling over for a while, but you have a long way to go and don't want to waste time. However, as you make your way through the town, you begin to notice something isn't right. Abandoned cars, mysterious lights, and moving shadows make you uneasy. You try to find the other side of town, but the streets all seem the same, as if you're literally going around in circles. Suddenly, you find a horrific scene in the middle of the road. Blood and bodies everywhere. And you realize one thing. You have to get out fast. With the use of GPS, cryptic road signs, and even radio stations, explore the fogged streets and solve puzzles in order to escape the monsters waiting for you to slow your car down. Search for specific landmarks and help other stranded souls you come across as you venture through this horror-themed driving puzzle game. This is a combination of driving-based open-world games, similar to Grand Theft Auto, and slow-paced horror games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. Disclaimer! I am not highly skilled nor experienced in either racing or horror genres, but I will play them and do my research beforehand to try and deliver the best of both. So I have no qualifications for this. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of racing games outside of kart races, and I really don't like being scared. But I have been intrigued by the 2 games I mentioned, Slender Man, Five Nights at Freddy's, all the typical horror games that I don't actually want to play, but I like the look of. But the thought of driving through a fog is like an extreme version of that Silent Hill setup, walking through the misty town. And the concept of a car is protection but also higher risk while you're driving around. I don't know how to explain cars. As the brief described, it starts off a casual drive through a town and then you suddenly realize something is very wrong. And the faster you drive, the higher risk of crashing is. But you gotta drive fast in order to escape everything that's coming after you. But if you crash your car to the point that it is no longer drivable, you're stuck there, waiting for something to come and get you. And cut to black! In fairness, I hate jump scares that are just out of nowhere. Needs to be the payoff to a build-up of suspension. That's how jump scares work. They're not just boogity boogity boogity. I am Australian. I live in Australia and I wanted a small town Australia vibe to this game. Except it's driving through a fog where you can't really see the town, so it doesn't make sense. So from that point I did consider an Australian monster called the Malengi. Malingi. The Malingi. From what I've gathered by this creepypasta, Malingi is a big stone monster with glowing red eyes, nocturnal, and hates light. So when you're in a metal cage with big lights on the front, you're kind of a sitting duck. Roast duck. And from there it's like driving through different sections of the town with a different situation attached to them. One level is being chased by ghost cars, where you have to drive fast and avoid obstacles, or flaming cars, like Twisted Metal. Speaking of which, that image, take the clown makeup away, that's a Malingi. Yeah. Want to deal with it now? One section is following signs, but the signs kind of lead you in a big loop until you ignore the signs and get out. But that puzzle seems a bit obvious. Or finding the centre of town where a big celebration was and then trying to get back to it through the landmarks that were around that area. Through radio stations you learn that one of the radio presenters is trying to guide you through the town, mainly to help himself. You have to try and save him at the end and then get him out of town. And as you drive around different areas, you might stumble into other civilians who somehow survived what's going on, but then they get in your car for a lift home and something goes wrong, like they were being chased by a different monster, or they start going a little cynical while they're in the car right next to you. So it gets a little tense. And also the possibility of switching first person and third person outside of the car with the environment, or in the car with the dash panel where you can adjust the radio or look for other clues. And if you slow the car down or stop it long enough, the camera zooms in and a big monster smashes into the side of your car. Terrifying when it's in third person, right in your face when it's first person. Bloody yourself. Really got Aussie there. In regards to the town that you're driving through, Blakehaven, named after the founder of the town, I worked on a bit of a backstory where the founder of the town slaughtered a bunch of people in order to get the land. And now their 150th anniversary is when the fog and all the ghosts and monsters come in to get revenge. I thought of having an Easter egg if you drive through the cemetery, which is illegal, but you can do it, and there's a big patch at the back that's just one gravestone. The men and women who boldly sacrificed their lives for the sake of this town, aka a mass grave of indigenous people. For the rest of this episode is going to be a history lesson. Not really to give ideas, but to explain what my headspace would have been if I kept developing this project for myself. There are a few episodes of Game Theory that discuss real-world crimes as inspiration for video games. It's most likely thanks to a real-world Chuck E. Cheese massacre that we have Five Nights at Freddy's. And in doing research for this particular project, I learnt about the Flying Foam Massacre in Australia 1868, in which up to 150 people were killed through several confrontations between white settlers and Aboriginals. And 2018, not long after I learned this, was the 150th anniversary of this event. Not that anyone would want to celebrate it. I had considered putting references to that in my game, then chose not to. I mean, I do think it's a good idea we explore history and acknowledge and respect people who lost their lives in these kinds of incidents. I just don't think I'm the right person to make a tribute like that. Not that that stopped Hollywood before. So if you happen to have horrible events in your family history, why not make a video game tribute? That sounds really horrible. God. Just shut up, Bart. End the video. Thanks for watching. This is my verbal declaration that I will not sue anyone for using the previous outline to create their own work, regardless of how much fame or money you might get from it. I'm definitely not the kind of artist who thinks I can own a concept. However, I would like to see what comes out of this video just for comparison and curiosity. If you do make something or find an existing piece that's similar, please let me know through Twitter or Facebook or email, and I'll happily check it out. And if you want to see the ideas I am working on for myself, please visit my Patreon page for samples and previews, no payment required. Happy creating, Bart Riley out!